7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis. The final visit to enhance the vision of Hubble into the deepest grandeur of our universe.
Bypassed across the board, Scooter, no action.
Houston now controlling, Atlantis on its way. Atlantis on its way, all three engines now throttling down as the vehicle passes through the area of maximum dynamic pressure.
Atlantis, Houston, no action on the MPS V2 out key.
Maine is a state in the New England region of the United States and the northeasternmost state in the lower 48. It borders New Hampshire to the west, the Gulf of Maine to the southeast, and the Canadian provinces of New Brunswick and Quebec to the northeast and northwest, and shares a maritime border with Nova Scotia. Maine is the largest state in New England by total area, nearly larger than the combined area of the remaining 5 states. Of the 50 U.S. states, it is the 12th smallest by area, the 9th least populous, the 13th least densely populated, and the most rural. 11 Maine's capital is Augusta, and its most populous city is Portland, with a total population of 68,408 as of the 2020 census. The territory of Maine has been inhabited by indigenous populations, 12 for about 12,000 years, 13 after the glaciers retreated during the last ice age. At the time of European arrival, several Algonquian-speaking nations govern the area, and these nations are now known as the Wabanaki Confederacy. The first European settlement in the area was by the French in 1604 on St. Croix Island, founded by Pierre Duguay, Sir Demons. The first English settlement was the short-lived Popham Colony, established by the Plymouth Company in 1607. A number of English settlements were established along the coast of Maine in the 1620s, although the rugged climate and conflict with the local indigenous people caused many to fail. As Maine entered the 18th century, only a half-dozen European settlements had survived. Loyalist and Patriot forces contended for Maine's territory during the American Revolution. During the War of 1812, the largely undefended eastern region of Maine was occupied by British forces with the goal of annexing it to Canada via the colony of New Ireland, but returned to the United States following failed British offensives on the northern border, mid-Atlantic and south, which produced a peace treaty that restored the pre-war boundaries. Maine was part of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts until 1820, when it voted to secede from Massachusetts to become a separate state. On March 15, 1820, under the Missouri Compromise, Maine was admitted to the Union as the 23rd state. Today, Maine is known for its jagged, rocky Atlantic Ocean and bayshore coastlines, mountains, heavily forested interior, and its cuisine, particularly wild low-bush blueberries and seafoods such as lobster and clams. Coastal and down east Maine have emerged as important centers for the creative economy, 14 especially in the vicinity of Portland, which has also brought gentrification to the city and its metropolitan area. 15. History Maine article, History of Maine State House, designed by Charles Bulfinch, built 1829 to 1832 Misty Morning, coast of Maine Earther Parton 1842 to 1914. Between 1865 and 1870, Brooklyn Museum. The earliest known inhabitants of the territory that is now Maine were Algonquian-speaking Wabanaki peoples, including the Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, Penobscot, Androscoggin, and Kennebec. During the later King Philip's War, many of these peoples would merge in one form or another to become the Wabanaki Confederacy, aiding the Wampanoag of Massachusetts and the Mahican of New York. Afterwards, many of these people were driven from their natural territories, but most of Maine's tribes continued, unchanged, until the American Revolution. Before this point, however, most of these people were considered separate nations. Many had adapted to living in permanent, Iroquois-inspired settlements, while those along the coast tended to move from summer villages to winter villages on a yearly cycle. They would usually winter inland and head to the coasts by summer. 1617 European contact with what is now called Maine may have started around 1000 CE when Vikings are believed to have interacted with the native Penobscot in present-day Hancock County, most likely through trade. If confirmed, this would make Maine the site of the earliest European discovery in the entire U.S. About 200 years earlier, from the settlements in Iceland and Greenland, the Norse first identified America and attempted to settle areas such as Newfoundland, but failed to establish a permanent settlement. Archaeological evidence suggests that Vikings in Greenland returned to North America for several centuries after the initial discovery to trade and collect timber, with the most relevant evidence being the Maine penny, an 11th century Norwegian coin found at a Native American dig site in 1954. The first European confirmed settlement in modern-day Maine was in 1604 on St. Croix Island, led by French explorer Pierre Duguay. His party included Samuel de Champlain, noted as an explorer. The French named the entire area Acadia, including the portion that later became the state of Maine. It is possible that they named the region Maine after the French province. However, the origin of the name is uncertain. The Plymouth Company established the first English settlement in Maine at the Popham Colony in 1607, the same year as the settlement at Jamestown, Virginia. The Popham colonists returned to Britain after 14 months. The French established two Jesuit missions, one on Penobscot Bay in 1609, and the other on Mount Desert Island in 1613. The same year, Claude de la Tour established Castini. In 1625, Charles de Saint-Eddy and de la Tour erected Fort Pentegoet to protect Castini. The coastal areas of eastern Maine first became the province of Maine in a 1622 land patent. The part of western Maine north of the Kennebec River was more sparsely settled and was known in the 17th century as the territory of Sagadahoc. A second settlement was attempted in 1623 by English explorer and naval captain Christopher Leavitt at a place called York, where he had been granted 6,000 acres, 24 square kilometers, by King Charles I of England. It also failed. The 1622 patent of the province of Maine was split at the Piscataqua River into the province of New Hampshire to the south and New Somersetshire to the north. A disputed 1630 patent split off the area around present-day Saco as Ligonia, justifying its actions with a 1652 geographic survey that showed an overlapping patent. The Massachusetts Bay Colony had seized New Somersetshire and Ligonia by force by 1658. The territory of Sagadahoc between the Kennebec River and St. Croix River notionally became Cornwall County, province of New York under a 1664 grant from Charles II of England to his brother James, at the time the Duke of York. Some of this land was claimed by New France as part of Acadia. All of the English settlements in the Massachusetts Bay Colony and the province of New York became part of the Dominion of New England in 1686. All of present-day Maine was unified as York County, Massachusetts under a 1691 royal patent for the province of Massachusetts Bay. Central Maine was formerly inhabited by the Androscoggin tribe of the Abenaki Nation, also known as Aroostook. They were driven out of the area in 1690 during King William's War. they were relocated to St. Francis, Canada, which was destroyed by Rogers Rangers in 1759 and is now Odanak. The other Abenaki tribes suffered several severe defeats, particularly during Dummer's War, with the capture of Norwich in 1724 and the defeat of the Pequawket in 1725, which significantly reduced their numbers. They finally withdrew to Canada, where they were settled at Bécancour and Sillery, and later at St. Francis, along with other refugee tribes from the south. 21 Maine was much fought over by the French, English, and allied natives during the 17th, and these natives conducted raids against settlers and each other, taking captives for ransom or, in some cases, kidnapped for adoption by Native American tribes. A notable example was the early 1690 Abenaki raid on York, where about 100 English settlers were killed and another estimated 80 taken hostage. 22. The Abenaki took captives taken during raids of Massachusetts in Queen Anne's War of the early 1700s to Conwake, a Catholic Mohawk village near Montreal, where some were adopted and others ransomed. 2324 After the British defeated the French in Acadia in the 1740s, the territory from the Penobscot River east fell under the nominal authority of the province of Nova Scotia, and together with present-day New Brunswick formed the Nova Scotia County of Sunbury, with its Court of General Sessions at Campobello. American and British forces contended for Maine's territory during the American Revolution and the War of 1812, with the British occupying eastern Maine in both conflicts via the colony of New Ireland. 2526. The territory of Maine was confirmed as part of Massachusetts when the United States was formed following the Treaty of Paris ending the Revolution, although the final border with British North America was not established until the Webster-Ashburton Treaty of 1842. Maine was physically separate from the rest of Massachusetts. Long-standing disagreements over land speculation and settlements led to Maine residents and their allies in Massachusetts proper forcing an 1807 vote in the Massachusetts Assembly on permitting Maine to secede. The vote failed. Secessionist sentiment in Maine was stoked during the War of 1812 when Massachusetts pro-British merchants opposed the war and refused to defend Maine from British invaders. In 1819, Massachusetts agreed to permit secession, sanctioned by voters of the rapidly growing region the following year. Geography, Maine Coast Reader X here. For the painting, see Maine Coast Painting. Coast of Maine Reader X here. For the skin spot noted for its jagged edges, see Coast of Maine Café Lamacule. Further information, list of counties in Maine, list of Maine rivers, list of lakes in Maine, geology of Maine, and geology of New England. A map of Maine showing its famed jagged coast. To the south and east is the Gulf of Maine, and to the west is the state of New Hampshire. The Canadian province of New Brunswick is to the north and northeast, and the province of Quebec is to the northwest. Maine is the northernmost and largest state in New England, accounting for almost half of the region's entire land area. Maine is the only state to border exactly one other American state. Approximately half the area of Maine lies on each side of the 45th parallel northern latitude. Maine is the easternmost state in the contiguous United States, both in its extreme points and its geographic center. The town of Lubec is the easternmost organized settlement in the United States. Its Quoddy Head Lighthouse is also the closest place in the United States to Africa and Europe. Escort Station is Maine's northernmost point, as well as the northernmost point in New England. For more information, see Extreme Points of the United States. Maine's Moosehead Lake is the largest lake wholly in New England, since Lake Champlain is located between Vermont, New York, and Quebec. A number of other Maine lakes, such as South Twin Lake, are described by Thoreau in the Maine Woods 1864. Mount Katahdin is the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail, which extends southerly to Springer Mountain, Georgia, and the southern terminus of the new International Appalachian Trail, which, when complete, will run to Belle Isle, Newfoundland, and Labrador. Machias Seal Island and North Rock, off the state's down east coast, are claimed by both Canada and the Maine town of Cutler, and are within one of 4 areas between the two countries whose sovereignty is still in dispute, but it is the only one of the disputed areas containing land. Also in this easternmost area in the Bay of Fundy is the Old Sault, the largest tidal whirlpool in the Western Hemisphere. Maine is the least densely populated state east of the Mississippi River. It is called the Pine Tree State due to its largest distribution and presence of pine, including Pinus strobus and Pinus resinosa. Over 80% of its total area is forested or unclaimed, 30% the most forest cover of any U.S. state. In the wooded areas of the interior lies much uninhabited land, some of which does not have formal political organization into local units, a rarity in New England. The Northwest Aroostook unorganized territory in the northern part of the state, for example, has an area of 2,668 square miles, 6,910 square kilometers, and a population of 10, or 1 person for every 267 square miles, 690 square kilometers. Maine is in the temperate broadleaf and mixed forests biome. The land near the southern and central Atlantic coast is covered by the mixed oaks of the northeastern coastal forests. The remainder of the state, including the North Woods, is covered by the New England Acadian forests. 31 Maine has almost 230 miles per 100 kilometers of ocean coastline and 3,500 miles, 5,600 kilometers of tidal coa. Line 30-33. West Quoddy Head in Lubec is the easternmost point of land in the 48 contiguous states. Along the famous rock-bound coast of Maine are lighthouses, beaches, fishing villages, and thousands of offshore islands, including the Isles of Shoals, which straddle the New Hampshire border. There are jagged rocks and cliffs and many bays and inlets. Inland are lakes, rivers, forests, and mountains. This visual contrast of forested slopes sweeping down to the sea has been summed up by American poet Edna St. Vincent Millay of Rockland and Camden. In Renaissance, 30 for geologists describe this type of landscape as a drowned coast, where a rising sea level has invaded former land features, creating bays out of valleys and islands out of mountain tops. 35. A rise in land elevation due to the melting of heavy glacier ice caused a slight rebounding effect of underlying rock. This land rise, however, was not enough to eliminate all the effect of the rising sea level and its invasion of former land. Much of Maine's geomorphology was created by extended glacial activity at the end of the last ice age. Prominent glacial features include some sound and bubble rock, both part of Acadian National Park on Mount Desert Island. Carved by glaciers, some sound reaches depths of 175 feet 50 meters. The extreme depth and steep drop-off allow large ships to navigate almost the entire length of the sound. These features also have made it attractive for boat builders, such as the prestigious Hinckley yachts. Bubble Rock, a glacial erratic, is a large boulder perched on the edge of Bubble Mountain in Acadian National Park. By analyzing the type of granite, geologists discovered that glaciers carried Bubble Rock to its present location from near Lucerne, 30 miles 48 kilometers away. The Iapetus Suture runs through the north and west of the state, being underlain by the ancient Laurentian Terrane, and the south and east underlain by the Avalonian Terrane. Acadian National Park is the only national park in New England. Areas under the protection and management of the National Park Service include 36. Climate. See also climate change in Maine Odom in the 100-mile wilderness gap and climate types of Maine, using 1991 to 2020 climate normals winter in Bangor. Maine has a humid continental climate and climate classification DFB, with warm and sometimes humid summers and long, cold, and very snowy winters. Winters are especially severe in the northern and western parts of Maine, while coastal areas are moderated slightly by the Atlantic Ocean, resulting in marginally milder winters and cooler summers than inland regions. Daytime highs are generally in the 75 to 85 F, 24 to 29 C range throughout the state in July, with overnight lows in the high 50s F around 15 C. January temperatures range from highs near 30 degrees Fahrenheit, 1°C on the southern coast, to overnight lows averaging below zero, F18°C in the far north, 37. The state's record high temperature is 105 F41 Celsius, set in July 1911 at North Bridgeton. 38. Precipitation in Maine is evenly distributed year-round, but with a slight summer maximum in northwestern Maine and a slight late fall or early winter maximum along the coast due to nor'easters or intense cold season rain and snowstorms. In coastal Maine, the late spring and summer months are usually driest, a rarity across the eastern United States. Maine has fewer days of thunderstorms than any other state east of the Rockies, with most of the state averaging fewer than 20 days of thunderstorms a year. Tornadoes are rare in Maine, with the state averaging 2 per year, although this number is increasing. Most severe thunderstorms and tornadoes occur in the southwestern interior portion of the state. 39, where summer temperatures are often the warmest and the atmosphere is thus more unstable compared to northern and coastal areas. 40, Maine rarely sees the direct landfall of tropical cyclones, as they tend to recurve out to sea or are rapidly weakening by the time they reach the forested areas. Consist primarily of coniferous and deciduous trees, such as balsam fir, sugar maple, and its state tree, the eastern white pine. 43 coastal regions are characterized by hardy sea milkwort, sea blight, bayberry, and the invasive rugosa rose. 40 for Maine's terrestrial fauna comprises mammals such as moose, black bears, and white-tailed deer, along with smaller species like red squirrels, snowshoe hares, and raccoons. Maine has the largest populations of moose and black bears in the contiguous United States. 45 avian diversity is evident with migratory birds like piping plovers, American oystercatcher, and northern harrier, as well as resident species like black-capped chickadees, blue jays, and barred owls. Wetlands provide habitat for amphibians such as spotted salamanders, wood frogs, and toads. Freshwater habitats support fish species like brook trout, landlocked salmon, and multiple gamefish, while marine life in offshore waters includes Atlantic puffins, harbor seals, minke whales, and lobster. Maine's abundance of lobster makes the state the largest producer of lobster in the United States. 46-47. Demographics, ethnic origins in Maine. U.S. Census Bureau estimates that the population of Maine was 1,344,212 on July 1, 2019, a 1.19% increase since the 2010 United States Census. 49. At the 2020 census, 1,362,359 people lived in the state. The state's population density is 41.3 people per square mile, making it the least densely populated state east of the Mississippi River. As of 2010, Maine was also the most rural state in the Union, with only 38.7% of the state's population living within urban areas. 50. As explained in detail under geography, there are large tracts of uninhabited land in some remote parts of the interior of the state, particularly in the North Maine woods. The mean population center of Maine is located in Kennebec County, just east of Augusta. 51. The greater Portland metropolitan area is the most densely populated, with nearly 40% of Maine's population. 52. This area spans 3 counties and includes many farms and wooded areas. The 2016 population of Portland proper was 66,937. 53. Maine has experienced a very slow rate of population growth since the 1990 census. Its rate of growth, 0.57%, since the 2010 census, ranks 45th of the 50 states. 54. In 2021 and 2022, however, Maine had the highest proportion of arriving residents to departing residents of any state in the country, with 1.8 arrivals for every departure. 55. The modest population growth in the state has been concentrated in the southern coastal counties, with more diverse populations slowly moving into these areas of the state. However, the northern More rural areas of the state have experienced a slight decline in population from 2010 to 2016, 56 as of 2020. Maine has the highest population age 65 or older in the United States, 57. According to the 2010 census, Maine has the highest percentage of non-Hispanic white of any state, at 94.4% of the total population. In 2011, 89.0% of all births in the state were to non-Hispanic white parents, 58. Maine also has the second highest residential senior population, 59 according to HUD's 2022 Annual Homeless Assessment Report. There were an estimated 4,411 homeless people in Maine. 6061. The table below shows the racial composition of Maine's population as of 2016. According to the 2016 American Community Survey, 1.5% of Maine's population were of Hispanic or Latino origin of any race, Mexican 0.4%, Puerto Rican 0.4%, Cuban 0.1%, and other Hispanic or Latino origin 0.6%. 62. The six largest ancestry groups were English 20.7%, Irish 17.3%, French 15.7%, German 8.1%, American 7.8%, and French Canadian 7.7%. 63 people citing that they are American are of overwhelmingly English descent, but have ancestry that has been in the region for so long, often since the 17th century, that they choose to identify imply as Americans. 60 for 65, 66, 67, 68, 69 excessive citations. Maine has most of them are of Canadian origin, but in some cases have been living there since prior to the American Revolutionary War. There are particularly high concentrations in the northern part of Maine in Aroostook County, which is part of a cultural region known as Acadia that goes over the border into New Brunswick. Along with the Acadian population in the north, many French Canadians came from Quebec as immigrants between 1840 and 1930. The Upper St. John River Valley area was once part of the so-called Republic of Madawaska before the frontier was decided in the Webster-Ashburton Treaty of 1842. Over a quarter of the population of Lewiston, Waterville, and Biddeford are Franco-American. Most of the residents of the mid-coast and down east sections are chiefly of British heritage. Smaller numbers of various other groups, including Irish, Italian, Swedish 70, and Polish, have settled throughout the state since the late 19th and early 20th century immigration waves. Today there are 4 federally recognized tribes in Maine, including the Micmac Nation. In 2020, 7,885 identified as being Native American alone, and 25,617 did in combination with one or more other races. 71. Language. Maine does not have an official language, 83, but the most widely spoken language in the state is English. The 2010 census reported 92.91% of Maine residents aged 5 and older spoke only English at home. French speakers are the state's chief linguistic minority. Census figures show that Maine has the highest percentage of people speaking French at home of any state. 3.93% of Maine households are French speaking, compared with 3.45% including Cajun and Creole in Louisiana, which is the second highest state. 7. Spanish is the third most common language in Maine, after English and French. 80. For religion. Religious self-identification. Per Public Religion Research Institute's 2022 American Values Survey, 85. Protestantism 41%, Catholicism 21%, Unitarian, Universalist 1%, unaffiliated 30%, Judaism 5%, New Age 1%, other 1%. According to the Pew Research Center in 2014, the religious affiliations of Maine were Protestant 37% in particular, Evangelical Protestant 14%, Mainline Protestant 21%, Historical Black Protestant 2%, Atheism or Agnosticism 6%, Nothing in particular 26%, Roman Catholic Church 21%, Other Christians 5%, Non-Christian religions including Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, and Baha'i 7%, and pagans and Unitarians 5%. In 2014, the Roman Catholic Church was the largest religious denomination, and the Baptists, 7% evangelical, and 5% mainline, were the state's largest Protestant denomination, followed by the Methodists 6% and the Congregationalists 5%. The atheists and the agnostics are only 6% of the state, but 26% of Mainers said that they believe in God, but they are unaffiliated. 81% of Mainers believed in God, while 3% did not know and 16% did not believe in God. 34% of Mainers thought that religion was very important, and 29% said that it was important, while 21% said that religion was not important. 86. According to a survey through the Public Religion Research Institute in 2020, minus 162% of the population were Christian. The religiously unaffiliated slightly increased to 33% from the separate 2014 study by the Pew Research Center. 87. In a 2022 study by the Public Religion Research Institute, 63% of the population were Christian and 30% were religiously unaffiliated. Among the non-Christian population in 2022, 1% were Unitarian Universalist, 5% Jewish, and 1% New Ager, according to the Association of Religion Data Archives in 2020. With Christianity as the dominant faith, the largest denominations by number of adherents were Catholicism, to 119,233 members, non-denominational Protestantism 45,364, and United Methodists 19,686. 88. According to the same study, there were an estimated 16,890 for Muslims in the state. Economy. See also Maine locations by per capita income and list of power stations in Maine. Bath Iron Works Naval Shipbuilding total employment May 2024, 674,989. Total employer establishments 2,021, 42,519.90. Maine's total gross state product was $91.10 billion in 2023. 91. The state's per capita personal income for 2023 was $63,117, ranking 30th in the nation, and its median gross income was $69,543. 92. 93. As of December 2024, Maine's unemployment rate is 3.2%. As of January 2025, Maine's minimum wage is $14.65. 95. Lobstering and Portland Mine's agricultural outputs include poultry, eggs, dairy products, cattle, wild blueberries, apples, maple syrup, and maple sugar. Aroostook County is known for its potato crops. Potatoes make the state $166,672,000 a year. 96. Commercial fishing. Once a mainstay of the state's economy, maintains a presence, particularly lobstering and ground fishing. While lobster is the main seafood focus for Maine, the harvest of both oysters and seaweed are on the rise. In 2015, 14% of the Northeast's total oyster supply came from Maine. In 2017, the production of Maine's seaweed industry was estimated at $20 million per year. The shrimp industry of Maine is on a government-mandated hold. With an ever-decreasing northern shrimp population, Maine fishermen are no longer allowed to catch and sell shrimp. The hold began in 2014 and is expected to continue until 2021. 97. Western Maine aquifers and springs are a source of bottled water for companies like Poland Spring. Maine's industrial outputs consist chiefly of paper, lumber and wood products, electronic equipment, leather products, food products, textiles, and biotechnology. Naval shipbuilding and construction remain key as well, with Bath Iron Works in Bath and Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in Kittery. Brunswick Landing, formerly Naval Air Station Brunswick, is also in Maine. Formerly a large support base for the U.S. Navy, the BRAC campaign initiated the Naval Air Station's closing, despite a government-funded effort to upgrade its facilities. The former base has since been changed into a civilian business park, as well as a new satellite campus for Southern Maine Community College. 98 wild low-bush blueberries are only produced commercially in Maine. 99 Maine is the top U.S. producer of low-bush blueberries. Preliminary data from the USDA for 2012 also indicate Maine was the largest blueberry producer of the major blueberry-producing states, with a total production of 91,100,000 pounds. 100. This data includes both low wild and high bush cultivated blueberries. 1928 ad promoting vacations in Maine tourism and outdoor recreation play a major and increasingly important role in Maine's economy. The state is a popular destination for sport hunting, particularly deer, moose, and bear, sport fishing, snowmobiling, skiing, boating, camping, and hiking, among other activities. Along with the tourist and recreation-oriented economy, Maine has developed a burgeoning creative economy, most notably centered in the greater Portland vicinity. 14. Historically, Maine ports played a key role in national transportation. Beginning around 1880, Portland's rail link and ice-free port made it Canada's principal winter port, until the aggressive development of Halifax, Nova Scotia in the mid-20th century. In 2013, 12,039,600 short tons passed into and out of Portland by sea, 101, which places it 45th of U.S. water ports. 100 to Portland International Jetport has been expanded, providing the state with increased air traffic from carriers such as JetBlue and Southwest Airlines. Maine has very few large companies that maintain headquarters in the state, and that number has fallen due to consolidations and mergers, particularly in the pulp and paper industry. Some of the larger companies that do maintain headquarters in Maine include Covetrus in Portland, Fairchild Semiconductor in South Portland, IDEXX Laboratories in Westbrook, Hanford Brothers Co. in Scarborough, LL Bean in Freeport, and Puritan Medical Products in Guilford. Maine is also the home of the Jackson Laboratory, the world's largest nonprofit mammalian genetic research facility and the world's largest supplier of genetically purebred mice. Transportations also. Public transportation in Maine airports. Portland International Jetport, Maine receives passenger jet service at its two largest airports, the Portland International Jetport in Portland and the Bangor International Airport in Bangor. Both are served daily by many major airlines to destinations such as New York, Atlanta, and Orlando. Essential Air Service also subsidizes service to a number of smaller airports in Maine, bringing small turboprop aircraft to regional airports such as the Augusta State Airport, Hancock County Bar Harbor Airport, Knox County Regional Airport, and the Northern Maine Regional Airport at Presque Isle. These airports are served by regional providers such as Cape Air with Cessna 402s and Commutair with Embraer RJ-145 aircraft. Many smaller airports are scattered throughout Maine, serving only general aviation traffic. The Eastport Municipal Airport, for example, is a city-owned public-use airport with 1,200 general aviation aircraft operations each year from single-engine and ultralight aircraft. 106 highways. The Penobscot Narrows Bridge, carrying U.S. Route 1 and Maine State Route 3 over the Penobscot River. Interstate 95 I-95 travels through Maine, as well as its easterly branch I-95 and spurs I-195, 1 to 395, and the unsigned I-95, the Falmouth Spur. In addition, U.S. Route 1 US 1 starts in Fort Kent and travels to Florida. The eastern terminus of the eastern section of U.S. to starts in Holton, near the New Brunswick, Canada border to Rouse's Point, New York, at US 11. US to A connects Old Town and Orono, primarily serving the University of Maine campus. US 201 and US to O2 flow through the state. US 2, Maine State Route 6 SR6 and SR9 are often used by truckers and other motorists of the maritime provinces en route to other destinations in the United States or as a shortcut to central Canada. Rail map of electric railway lines in Maine. C. 1907. See also list of Maine Railroad's passenger southbound Downeaster passenger train at Ocean Park, Maine, as viewed from the cab of a northbound train. Downeaster passenger train, operated by Amtrak, provides passenger service between Brunswick and Boston's North Station, with stops in Freeport, Portland, Old Orchard Beach, Saco, and Wells. The Downeaster makes 5 daily trips, 107 freight. Freight service throughout the state is provided by a handful of regional and shortline carriers. Pan Am Railways, formerly known as Guilford Railside, STEM, which operates the former Boston and Maine Central Railroads, St. Lawrence and Atlantic Railroad, Maine Eastern Railroad, Central Maine and Quebec Railway, and New Brunswick Southern Railway. Shipping Cargill International Marine Terminal in Portland provides shipping container transport. In 2021, an estimated 36,700 shipping containers moved through the terminal. In 2017, a total of 17,515 shipping containers were transported. The Icelandic shipping company Imskip opened its United States headquarters in Portland in 2013. Its ships stop in Portland once a week in a route that includes Atlantic Canada and Iceland, with connections to Northern Europe and Asia. 108. In 2015, the terminal moved 10,500 containers. The Maine Port Authority in 2016 began a $15.5 million expansion and improvement of the terminal. The Maine Port Authority leased the International Marine Terminal from the City of Portland in 2009. 109. Law and Government. See also List of Governors of Maine, List of United States Senators from Maine, List of Maine State Senators, and Electoral Reform in Maine. The Maine Constitution structures Maine's state government, composed of 3 co-equal branches: the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. The state of Maine also has 3 constitutional officers: the Secretary of State, the State Treasurer, and the State Attorney General, and 1 statutory officer, the State Auditor. The legislative branch is the Maine Legislature, a bicameral body composed of the Maine House of Representatives, with 151 members, and the Maine Senate, with 35 members. The legislature is charged with introducing and passing laws. The executive branch is headed by the Governor of Maine, currently John Mills. The governor is elected every 4 years. No individual may serve more than 2 consecutive terms in this office. The current Attorney General of Maine is Aaron Frey. As with other state legislatures, the Maine legislature can by a 2/3 majority vote from both the House and Senate override a gubernatorial veto. Maine is one of 7 states that do not have a lieutenant governor. Maine.gov logo. The highest court in the state's judicial branch is the Maine Supreme Judicial Court. The lower courts are the District Court, Superior Court, and Probate Court. All judges except for probate judges serve full-time, are nominated by the governor, and confirmed by the legislature for terms of 7 years. Probate judges serve part-time and are elected by the voters of each county for 4-year terms. In a 2020 study, Maine was ranked as the 14th easiest state for citizens to vote in. 110. In 2012, Maine became one of the first U.S. states to establish marriage rights for same-sex couples. 111. Politics Mind article. Politics of Maine. Maine politics are dynamic in nature, with parties loosely hung together, governors often winning by pluralities rather than majorities, and significant turnover both in members and parties in legislative districts. In his 2010 article Maine's Paradoxical Politics, Kenneth Palmer suggests that Maine's political leaders find themselves as centrists, primarily because they want to find practical solutions to difficult problems. 112. The results of the elections are often varied. Maine is seen as a blue-leaning swing state, with unusually high support for independent candidates. The Republican Party have won Maine in 11 out of the past 20 presidential elections, and the governorship has been won by Democrats and independents 3 times each, and Republicans 4 times. Since 1974, 113 Maine uses ranked choice voting in primary elections for state and federal offices, as well as in general elections for federal offices. Ranked choice voting was adopted by voters in a 2016 referendum. 114 counties. Also, list of counties in Maine is divided into political jurisdictions designated as counties. Since 1860, there have been 16 counties in the state, ranging in size from 370 to 6,829 square miles, 958 to 17,700. Education. Further information. List of colleges and universities in Maine, education in Maine, list of high schools in Maine, and list of school districts in Maine. The University of Maine is the state's only research university. There are 30 institutions of higher learning in Maine, 120. These institutions include the University of Maine, which is the oldest, largest, and only research university in the state. Maine was founded in 1865 and is the state's only land-grant and sea-grant college. The University of Maine is located in the town of Orono and is the flagship of Maine. There are also branch campuses in Augusta, Farmington, Fort Kent, Machias, and Presque Isle. 121 Colby, Bates, and Bowdoin pictured. Colleges form the Colby-Bates-Bowdoin Concertine. Bowdoin College is a liberal arts college founded in 1794 in Brunswick, making it the oldest institution of higher learning in the state. Colby College in Waterville was founded in 1813, making it the second oldest college in Maine. 122 Bates College in Lewiston was founded in 1855, making it the third oldest institution in the state and the oldest coeducational college in New England. 123. The three colleges collectively form the Colby-Bates-Bowdoin Consortium and are ranked among the best colleges in the United States, often placing in the top 10% of all liberal arts colleges. 120 for 125. 126. Maine's per-student public expenditure for elementary and secondary schools was 21st in the nation in 2012, at $12,340 for dollars. 127. The collegiate system of Maine also includes numerous baccalaureate colleges, such as the Maine Maritime Academy MMA, College of the Atlantic, Unity College, and Thomas College. There is only one medical school in the state, University of New England's College of Osteopathic Medicine, and only one law school, the University of Maine School of Law. There is one art school in the state, Maine College of Art, along with a private graduate school, Institute for Doctoral Studies in the Visual Arts, which offers a Doctor of Philosophy to visual artists. The Maine Community College System, founded in 1985, also serves to provide associate degree, diploma, and certificate programs directed at the educational, career, and technical needs of the state's citizens and the workforce needs of the state's employers. 128. This system includes Southern Maine Community College (SMCC), York County Community College (YCCC), Central Maine Community College (CMCC), Eastern Maine Community College (EMCC), Kennebec Valley Community College (KVCC), Northern Maine Community College (NMCC), and Washington County Community College (WCCC). 129 private schools in Maine are funded independently of the state and its further domains. Private schools are less common than public schools. A large number of private elementary schools with under 20 students exist, but most private high schools in Maine can be described as semi-private. Maine also has vocational schools, such as the Biddeford Regional Center of Technology, 130, and Sanford Regional Technical Center, 131, that teach trades such as welding, construction, and vehicle repair to students. Culture Agriculture was a center of agriculture before it achieved statehood. Prior to colonization, Wabanaki nations farmed large crops of corn and other produce in southern Maine. 132. Maine was a center of grain production in the 1800s until grain production moved westward. However, In the early 2000s, the local food movement spurred renewed interest in locally grown grains. In 2007, the Kneading Conference was founded. In 2012, the Skowhegan Grist Mill Maine Grains opened. 134. The revival of grain farming and milling in Maine has led to the creation of other businesses, including bakeries and malthouses. 135. Maine has many vegetable farms and other small, diversified farms. In the 1960s and 1970s, the book Living the Good Life by Helen Nearing and Scott Nearing caused many young people to move to Maine and engage in small-scale farming and homesteading. These back-to-the-land migrants increased the population of some counties. 136. Maine is home to the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association and had 535 certified organic farms in 2019. 137. Festivals. Maine has multiple fairs and festivals that are held annually, which include La Kermesse, a celebration of the state's French and French-Canadian heritage, the Freiburg Fair, the Cumberland Fair, the Union Fair, the Common Ground Country Fair, a number of Old Home Days festivals, and a number of Portland food festivals. 138. 139. 140. Food. Along with the growth of the local food movement over the last several decades, Maine has received national recognition for its food and restaurant scene. Portland was named Bon Appetit Magazine's Restaurant City of the Year in 2018. 141. In 2018, HealthIQ.com named Maine the third most vegan-friendly state. 142. Biddeford was selected by Food and Wine in 2022 as one of America's next great food cities. 143. Maine food shares many ingredients with Wabanaki cuisine, including corn, beans, squash, wild blueberries, maple syrup, fish, and seafood. 144. By 1902, the Maine Italian sandwich had been invented in Portland. Sandwich shops across Maine serve the sandwiches. 145. Baked beans are a common dish in Maine, served at community suppers where the beans are sometimes cooked underground in a bean hole. In New England, Maine baked beans are one of two well-known regional styles of baked beans, the other being Boston baked beans. Maine baked beans use thicker-skinned, native bean varieties, such like Marifax, Soldier, and Yellow Eye beans. 146. From 1913 until 2021, baked beans were canned on the Portland waterfront at the B&M Baked Beans Factory.